Why hello. So today I am going to be doing my very first original book tag, which is the 90s book music tag. Hey guys, future Penelope here, and I wanted to come in quickly to say this tag is called the 90s music book tag. I'm sorry, apparently I can't speak words. I am working on it. Now please continue and enjoy this video. Or don't, that's cool too. Basically, I'm going to be merging 90s music with books, and it's like two things that I love so much and are so dear to my heart, and I just felt like it needed to happen. I was born in the 90s, so I have so much nostalgia for the 90s, and I also feel like this is gonna be a really relatable tag to the majority of BookTube, because whether you were born in the 90s or before, most people grew up during the 90s. So basically what this tag is going to entail is I am going to list 10 popular songs from the 90s, and then list a question that correlates to the song, whether it be based on book character, etc. The first song is Smells Like Teen Spirit. Which book featuring a young adult narrator is one of your all-time favorites? For this one, I have to go with A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. This story follows the narration of young Mary as she sees her world spiraling out of control when her older sister Marjorie begins to act very, very strange. Although not very religious, Mary's parents consult a priest who convinces them to let him do an exorcism on Marjorie. And because the parents are both out of work, they have the idea to invite a reality television crew in to film a documentary style segment on Marjorie and the exorcisms and what she's going through. Now, while this story is partly told from Mary's perspective, who is a young girl, it's also told from Mary's perspective years later as she is an adult. But I really enjoyed reading from her perspective as she is a child, because she is just one of the most willful, hilarious, adorable children that I've ever read about. I just adore her so much, so I had to choose her for this question. The next song is Creep. Who was the creepiest villain / antagonistic type character that you've read recently? For this one, I have to go with Ursula Monkton from The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. This book I actually read, I think going on 2 years ago, but this character still stays with me because of how incredibly disturbing she is. The story follows a nameless narrator who is now an adult and returning to his hometown to attend a funeral. While he does, he reminisces about a very terrifying, fantastical time during his childhood in which an evil nanny named Ursula Monkton came into his life. I love this book so much. I loved the misadventures that the main character gets up to. I loved the family of women that he befriends who ultimately help him. It was so good. It's Neil Gaiman. It's fantastic, and I definitely need to reread this again soon because the character of the nanny, she terrified me, and I don't scare easily, but this lady, she was scary. The next song is Don't Speak. Don't speak. You know just what you say, baby. I don't know the words, okay. Which narrator did you wish would just shut up? For me, I have to go with Catherine of Three Dark Crowns by Kendar Blake. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce her name. I think it's Katarine, but regardless, she wasn't so bad in the first book, but in the second book, One Dark Throne, I couldn't stand her. I had a really hard time reading from her perspective because she is such a loathsome character, and I just wanted her to shut up. I didn't want to read her perspective. I didn't, but I had to. However, it was painful. I'm not gonna lie. The next song is I'll Be Missing You. Which author who has passed away do you wish hadn't, so you could be reading more books from them? For this one, I have to go with Shirley Jackson. This is actually the first book that I ever read from her. We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and I have since bought, I think, every book and short story collection that she has written, which means I still have quite a lot of her work to get through, but I'm just savoring it. Like, as much as I want to get to it, I know that she's no longer with us, so I know she can't write anymore. It's such a conundrum because I just want to keep reading her writing, but I also don't want to be done with her work. So it's really difficult, but yeah, I definitely have to say Shirley Jackson. She was just such an interesting, fascinating woman, and her mind and the way that she weaves words and worlds, it's just unlike anything I've ever read before. So yes, Shirley Jackson is the obvious choice for me. The next song is Wannabe. Which book character do you want to be romantically involved with another book character. Basically, I'm talking about characters that can be from 2 different books, 2 different worlds, 2 different series, just 2 characters that may have never interacted, may have never had any scenes with, but that you just think would go together like PB&J. Now for me, I'm going to pick 2 characters from the same series, but whom have never met or shared any time on the page, and they are Daenerys Targaryen and Jaime Lannister from A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. Now I know this is going to be controversial, but honestly, I would rather see Jaime with anyone but Cersei. Now I'm going to be sharing basic information from the first book, A Game of Thrones, as well as the first season of Game of Thrones on HBO. So this shouldn't be spoilery, but if you don't want to know, skip to this timestamp. Okay. I know what a lot of you are probably thinking. You're like, hello, dude killed her father. I get that, I do. But as all of us also know, Daenerys' dad was a raving mad king, and Jaime did the right thing. Politically, the marriage makes sense to me. If Dany is going to return to Westeros, she needs to have someone with a famous last name to marry her. That's just the way that things work in this world. Would I honestly rather her just be a badass queen, not needing a man by her side? Yes. But I doubt that's gonna happen. To me, it just seems like it would be a very interesting, very angsty, very just like multi-layered relationship. But for now and ever, the only way that I can experience it is through fan fiction. The next song is MmmBop. Which book did you have a hard time understanding? Whether it be plot-wise, themes, etc. For this one, I have to go with The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. Now I read this book, or I started reading this book a few years ago, and I just had such a hard time understanding the world and the politics. For me, that's really weird because like high fantasy is my thing. I really enjoy it. I've read all the books in the A Song of Ice and Fire series. Didn't have any trouble with those, but this particular world just really stumped me. I love the idea of books with goblins in them and a goblin kingdom. Sounded so interesting, but I just had the hardest time with this book, and to this day, so many years later, it still sticks with me as being like a book that I just couldn't get through. Maybe one day in the future I'll give it another try, but as of now, I'm just like, no. The next song is My Heart Will Go On. Which book took you a while to move on from emotionally? For this, I have to go with The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman. This is a book that I read last year and I really loved it, but it also ripped my soul in half. This story follows a married couple who live on an island as the husband is a lighthouse keeper, and unfortunately he and his wife have been trying to have a child, but she keeps having miscarriages and they're just destroyed by this, understandably so. When one day a baby washes up on shore inside a boat alongside a dead man, and the wife sees it as a sign from God. Years later, they return to the mainland and run into the mother of the baby that they have unofficially adopted. And from there, it's just heartbreak and more heartbreak and devastation and heartbreak and sadness and more heartbreak. And it's also really sad on a personal level for me because I am adopted and I can't even imagine being in this type of situation or putting my family through this type of situation. So yeah, needless to say, this book still sticks with me because it effed me up so bad. The next song is That Don't Impress Me. What is a hyped read that just didn't impress you? For me, I have to go with Restore Me by Tahara Mafi. I was totally anticipating this book just like everyone else, and I read it last year and I disliked it so much that I actually gave my entire Shatter Me series away. I just didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I don't know if I'm gonna continue on with this series. I don't know, I feel like I'm done with this world. I feel like it should have just stopped after the original trilogy. I just feel like it's getting kind of messy and it don't impress me much. The next song is Baby One More Time. Which book and or series do you want to read one more time? For me, I have to go with all of my like favorite childhood slash preteen slash teenage reads. So we've got The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot, the Mediator series also by Meg Cabot, Angus Long's In Full Frontal Snogging by Louise Renison, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brashers, and the Gossip Girl series by Cecily von Ziegesar. Now I want to read all of these books because they were my favorite as a kid. Like, I've picked them up here and there and read one or two in the past few years, but I've never read the entire series of each again, and I really want to do that. And it's not even necessarily something that I only want to do one more time, but it's definitely something that I want to do at least one more time in my life. And the final song is Say My Name. Which book character's name do you wish could be your own? For this one, I have to go with Violet Baudelaire from the A Series of Unfortunate Events series by Lemony Snicket. I adore Violet as a character, and I just love her name, Violet Baudelaire. It just sounds beautiful, and it just comes off the tongue so nicely, and I've just always loved that name. Maybe it's like the French in me, but I just it'd be really cool for my last name at least to be Baudelaire. Penelope Baudelaire. That was not even a French accent. Wow. I'm just not even gonna try a French accent because everyone's gonna hate me, so let's not do that. In the comments below, I would love for you guys to let me know what your answers would be to these questions. Or even better, if you have a booktube channel, I implore you, please do this tag and tweet me or comment me and let me know that you did it, because the more people who do this tag, the happier it makes me. I just think it's really fun. I had a really fun time creating it, so I hope that you guys have enjoyed it as well and will be inspired to do it. As far as tagging goes, I'm going to list some booktubers down in the bottom bar of whom I would personally love to see do this tag. I would also love to know what some of your favorite songs from the 90s are, because maybe I'll do a part 2 of this. It honestly was really hard just doing 10 songs, so it's like inevitable that I do another one of these. All right guys, so that's all for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one.